you come across a headline that makes you pause. Whispers about Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant secretly tying the knot. The story feels almost too perfect. A private European wedding away from flashing cameras. The kind of love story that aligns with how Keanu has always carried himself. Low-key, thoughtful, and protective of his personal life. It begins with an Instagram post from Alexandra, a simple image of her sharing a kiss with Keanu, paired with the caption, "Good news is much needed." That small moment sparks a wildfire. Fans latch onto it, tabloids spin it into a full-blown wedding narrative, and suddenly, you're seeing words like secret ceremony repeated across gossip outlets. As you scroll deeper, the pieces don't quite fit. A ring spotted on Alexandra's hand is enough for some to jump to conclusions, but then her own words appear in response. She clarifies the speculation directly, explaining that what people saw was just an affectionate photo, not a coded announcement. She reminds you of something easy to forget in the frenzy of celebrity culture, that not every image is a clue, not every caption is a puzzle, and sometimes a kiss is simply a kiss. Keanu's publicist steps in next, offering a firm response that there has been no wedding. With that, the foundation of the rumor collapses, but the fascination doesn't disappear. You realize how quickly stories snowball, how one outlet's unverified claim becomes another's exclusive. The romance between Keanu and Alexandra has always drawn attention, because it doesn't fit the usual Hollywood mold. They live quietly, they appear at events occasionally, and they don't feed the constant machine of headlines. That privacy creates space for speculation, and when fans desperately want a happy ending for someone as beloved as Keanu Reeves, the line between fact and wishful thinking starts to blur. You're left with a story that reflects less about whether two people married in secret and more about how easily desire for good news can turn into collective belief. In the end, the truth is simple, even if the rumor was far more exciting. You notice how the rumor starts to take on a life of its own. One moment, it's just a tabloid headline. The next, it's circulating across social media feeds as though it were fact. You see fans posting heartfelt congratulations, sharing edits of Keanu and Alexandra as if they'd just stepped out of a wedding chapel. The excitement feels genuine, almost contagious, because so many people want this love story to end with a fairy tale moment. But when you look closer, there's no wedding dress, no ceremony photos, no reliable confirmation, just recycled speculation spun from a single affectionate image. What makes it so believable is the history of the couple themselves. You think about how long Keanu and Alexandra have been together, how their relationship has always been grounded in friendship, collaboration, and quiet companionship. They aren't the type to overshare or stage moments for publicity. That very privacy makes them stand out in Hollywood, a place where personal milestones are often turned into media events. Because they've chosen not to broadcast their romance, every rare glimpse, like a kiss on Instagram, feels significant, almost symbolic. As the chatter grows, Alexandra steps in with her clarification. You read her words, calm and straightforward, reminding you that the photo wasn't coded with hidden meaning. Keanu's representative echoes the same stance. They are not married. Still, you notice that even after the denial, some people continue to believe the opposite. It strikes you how once a narrative forms, facts don't always erase it. Instead, the rumor becomes part of their story, a what-if that lingers in the background. You realize that this isn't just about two people and a rumor. It's about how the public projects its hopes onto them. Keanu, long regarded as a kind soul in Hollywood, inspires people to root for his happiness. Alexandra, an artist with her own quiet strength, is embraced by those who want to see him finally settled. Together, they represent something different. Love that isn't about spectacle, but about authenticity. And maybe that's why even a false wedding story feels so believable. You watch how the cycle keeps turning, even after the denials. A single image has already left its mark, and now you see countless fan theories floating around. Some insist the wedding already happened, but was kept private. Others claim the couple is engaged, but won't admit it. And a few even suggest that denials are just a smokescreen. You start to understand how celebrity culture thrives on gaps in information. When nothing concrete is offered, people fill the silence with stories of their own. It's not not just about what's true, it's about what people want to believe. Keanu and Alexandra's relationship has always been different from the glossy romances you're used to seeing in Hollywood. You remember how, back in 2019, their red carpet debut surprised many, not because they were together, but because they were so unapologetically normal. They held hands, smiled, and walked past the flashing cameras without turning the moment into a performance. Since then, their appearances together have been rare, but each one generates headlines. The intrigue doesn't come from scandal or drama, it comes from the absence of it. And that absence is exactly what makes fans hungry for more. When you look at the bigger picture, you notice how much of the fascination is tied to Keanu's image. He's the star who avoids scandals, the actor who rides the subway, the man who grieves privately but shows kindness publicly. For years, fans have wanted him to find lasting happiness, and Alexandra represents that possibility. The rumor of marriage wasn't just about curiosity, it was about hope. People wanted to believe he had found his peace, that he had stepped into a new chapter without needing a spotlight. As you reflect, you realize that the rumor itself reveals something deeper about the audience. It shows how invested people are in a narrative of love and healing, especially when it involves someone who seems universally admired. Whether true or not, the story resonates because it gives fans what they crave, a glimpse of happily ever after in a world where most Hollywood romances rarely last. You notice how the story takes on another layer once Alexandra herself steps forward. Her clarification feels direct, almost gentle, as if she understands the excitement but wants to pull the brakes on runaway speculation. She doesn't scold anyone, nor does she mock the idea. She simply says the truth. It was just a kiss, nothing more. In that moment, you see how carefully she chooses her words, balancing honesty with empathy. For every rumor that spreads, there's a real person at the center, and Alexandra reminds you of that reality. Keanu's representative echoes the message with a blunt denial, stripping away any ambiguity. Still, the chatter refuses to die down. You realize how much the internet feeds on mystery, how even a denial can be twisted into another storyline. If they say no, some argue, maybe that's because they want to keep it secret. You begin to see how impossible it is for public figures to fully control their narrative. A simple photograph can spark an avalanche, and the truth often feels smaller than the rumor it tries to correct. When you think about Keanu and Alexandra's bond, it becomes clear why this particular rumor captured so much attention. Their relationship doesn't fit the scripted mold of celebrity couples who post curated updates or orchestrate media moments. Instead, theirs looks grounded, almost ordinary, and in that ordinariness lies something rare. Fans project their own desires onto them, a longing for stability, for quiet love, for proof that even in the chaos of Hollywood, something genuine can exist. You realize that the appeal of the secret wedding wasn't about scandal or exposure, it was about celebration. People wanted to celebrate them, even if the event itself never happened. And in a way, the rumor becomes symbolic of the public's affection. Whether true or not, the story reflects the hope that two people can live simply, love privately, and still inspire the world without ever meaning to. You start to notice how the rumor reveals more about the audience than about Keanu or Alexandra. When people saw the photo and the caption, they weren't just reacting to two individuals, they were reacting to an idea. The idea that love, when kept quiet and sincere, eventually blossoms into something permanent. It's the classic narrative of privacy leading to purity, and in a world filled with scandals and breakups, that narrative is deeply appealing. You realize that fans weren't only celebrating the possibility of a wedding, they were celebrating their own belief in the kind of romance they wish existed more often. As you think about it, the fascination feels almost inevitable. Keanu has long carried the reputation of being humble, generous, and almost untouched by the darker side of fame. Every story about him riding the subway or being kind to strangers has shaped him into more than just an actor. He's become a symbol of goodness in Hollywood. So when a rumor of marriage surfaces, it doesn't get treated like idle gossip. Instead, it feels like a victory for kindness itself, as if the universe rewarded him with happiness after years of personal loss. Alexandra, in turn, represents something equally important. She isn't the stereotypical Hollywood partner. She's an artist with her own life and independence, someone who doesn't chase the spotlight. That quality makes the match feel authentic, and it reinforces the fantasy that this love isn't for cameras, but for them alone. When you watch the way fans talk about her, you see respect alongside curiosity. She isn't just Keanu's girlfriend, she's the person people want to see him happy with. Even though the rumor has been denied, you recognize how persistent it will remain. For many, the truth doesn't matter as much as the story they've chosen to believe. And in that sense, the so-called secret wedding is less of a fact and more of a reflection of collective hope. A hope that love can be real, lasting, and quietly powerful even under the world's brightest lights. You find yourself thinking about how quickly rumors like this reshape the way people view a couple. Before the wedding talk, Keanu and Alexandra were seen as a quiet pair, appearing together occasionally. Their bond measured more in subtle gestures than in headlines. Once the whispers of a secret ceremony begin, everything gets reinterpreted. A simple ring becomes a symbol, a caption becomes a clue. Even their absence from the public eye is painted as deliberate secrecy. You realize that people don't just watch celebrities. They read them, dissecting each image and word as though they were part of an ongoing script. The irony is that Keanu has built a life avoiding that script. His career spans decades, yet he's never chased the circus of gossip. He acts, he promotes, then he retreats, leaving fans hungry for scraps of his personal life. That scarcity is what makes rumors so powerful. When you don't have steady updates, you're more likely to believe in the stories that appear, especially when they line up with what you want to see. A secret wedding feels believable precisely because it matches the way you imagine Keanu would do it. Quietly, away from cameras, no spectacle, no press release. But when Alexandra and Keanu's team deny the claims, you're reminded of the tension between reality and fantasy. The truth is simple, almost mundane, while the rumor is charged with romance. In that gap, you see how the public clings to possibility, even when evidence disappears. It's not deception, it's desire. Desire for a Hollywood story that doesn't end in heartbreak, for a couple who might prove that privacy and authenticity can coexist with fame. As you reflect, it becomes clear that the rumor's staying power has little to do with facts. It thrives because it taps into longing, for stability, for love unshaken by the industry, for a man like Keanu to finally have the happiness people believe he deserves. Whether or not the wedding ever happened matters less than the hope it symbolizes. You begin to see how the so-called wedding rumor has transformed into something more enduring than a headline. It becomes a mirror for what fans project onto Keanu and Alexandra, a love story shaped less by their own words and more by collective imagination. Every time the couple appears together, even in ordinary ways, walking hand in hand at an event, attending an art show, or sharing a smile on the red carpet, you notice how quickly those images are folded back into the fantasy. The narrative doesn't need proof anymore. It lives on because people want it to. Keanu's reputation adds weight to this phenomenon. You think about how rarely a Hollywood actor of his status manages to avoid scandal, how his humility has earned him a kind of universal affection. For years, he's been painted as someone who deserves peace after loss, kindness after hardship. So when you hear people insisting that he must already be married, it doesn't sound like gossip. It sounds like collective wishful thinking, almost a protective gesture from fans who want to believe he's finally found his safe harbor. Alexandra, too, shapes this story simply by being who she is. Her identity as an artist, her grounded presence, and her choice to live outside the frantic glare of fame make her feel like the opposite of a Hollywood stereotype. She doesn't need to chase attention, and in that restraint lies the credibility of the relationship. You notice how her denial of the rumor didn't anger people. Instead, it seemed to deepen their respect. She managed to push back against falsehoods without breaking the affection surrounding her. When you take it all in, you realize the rumor's real significance isn't in whether the wedding happened. It's in what the story reveals about the bond between celebrities and the people who watch them. Sometimes, you're not just following their lives, you're weaving them into your own hopes. And in that sense, Keanu and Alexandra's secret wedding will always exist, not as an event, but as an enduring wish shared by millions.